У. Китайский иероглиф, который означает
U,
ничего.
the Chinese
Это концепт,
pictogram meaning nothing
в частности,
or
учение Увей.
no activity.
Учение
This is big part of
Сегодня я
Uwe,
расскажу вам о том, как мы используем
about not
для того, чтобы
doing something.
генерировать газ.
And I will talk to you about how we use this to optimize gas in our smart contracts. My name is Andrew. I do distributed systems since 2004, and I started in fintech, the cash collisions, mining using AI. And neither mining nor ACO was invented then. And luckily, AI is very poor at breaking the hashes. And then the blockchain and new technologies, right? So I worked for EV, RBC, and other things. So I started with recently with a payment system for the Rubik Cube, and then the global database of IP. And actually, the global database for IP was the reason I started doing blockchain and started researching the security of DeFi projects, QR code anonymity, for example. And in the end of 2022, I was invited to VKontakte, to VK NFT team, and I thought this is a great story with 100 million users of VK entering the Web3. That would be a great step towards mass adoption. But what do you need besides the users for mass adoption? Besides real usage, you would need simplicity and convenience. And that's where that's where NFT plays. So what is an NFT? It's a non-fungible token. It's a unique object, a specific thing that belongs to someone who can sell it, transfer it, or destroy it. So the previous monkey from the previous slide was destroyed. Everything is all of them are stored in collections as a smart contract holding the address and the token number and the rules for creating new tokens, like minting rules. All the collections implement interfaces, TP62 for Tonem, and
это не вполне обязательно, потому что вот, например, CryptoPunk это не совсем ERC-720.
ERC-721 is used differently, and this specific as part of Huawei in ERC-721 was burned, and then it was recreated via Bitcoin. So the most popular one is digital art, like this nice spotty. It was dropped last year by Ruslan Velsen, the art director of VK NFT. What you can do with digital art? You can buy it, you can sell it, you can split it into shares, and you can prove that you own it. Besides greed, you also have pride, right? So maybe you don't need Papa VI the Fourth, but you probably know this Sixth Capella. And Papa wanted to flex in front of Ludovic XI on Mehmed the Conqueror. So because of NFTs, you can now flex. Everybody can flex. And the PFP story, profile picture, is very popular. CryptoPunks, monkeys, and we created our own PFP token, CryptoSpotty. We dropped 8,003 of them, 8,000 ordinary ones and 3 exclusive ones from the artists. You can use them as avatars. But with the current ML technologies, because we can transform the pictures, we can create our own stickers or our own avatars for video calls. So what are the possibilities we can offer? We can offer access to the communities, to the closed content, for example, for the people who own this, like a closed chat for CryptoSpotty owners. And there's a technology in VK for closed chats for all NFT collections. It can be not only online, but offline also. So based on those NFT tokens, you can sell tickets for the events. They have very specific time and place. And this is a great way to legalize the current market of tickets, because currently whatever you buy, another person can come and participate. We remember the Bolshoi Theater story, where a lot of people were trying to buy tickets. But now, with the royalty mechanism, you can ensure that the tokens can be sold and bought. Also, you can buy some things in the game, or use, for example, like the golden belt would go from one champion to another champion. And here you play some, rock paper scissors, or you raid something. So you get the tokens. Also, you can tokenize not only the items in the games, but you can tokenize the levels or characters, because this gives you access to the most important thing, the intellectual property, because then you can buy and sell rights. You can buy and sell cameras, or take mortgage, because we work for creators. This is a super important thing for us, and this is the goal we have. This is something we want to make possible. Like Niels Bolen had a patent for the seatbelt, because the person decided not to take patent, not to defend his rights. We are able to use it. So with all the scoring, two-factor authentication, and new technologies, protected servers, we can be very well protected in those transactions. You can also be protected from, gas prices and transaction prices change. You can also use your wallet as an ordinary MetaMask and as a usual wallet in other projects. So let's talk about security. How do we store, and where do we better store the keys? Usually the crypto exchange would split the assets. One part would go to a cold wallet, and another part would be stored in the operational wallets on the exchange servers. Same as Mr. Kureiko in a well-known Russian book would hold only 10,000 rubles, but most of the funds would go into his gold assets. So if we can split our bitcoins into two parts, then we can also create some private keys for each and every user, but then we will have a huge-sized table Like now we have 8 million people in our mini APIs. So you need backups, and they have an unpleasant tendency to leak. But we can create one master key and use it for creating other keys. So when you create your seed phrase and you put it into your wallet, you would get a lot of addresses as part of one subnet. So if your key is stolen, then you are in a race with the attacker on who steals the assets first. So that's unpleasant. That's why we create contracts. Each and every client would have a contract, and the contract is owning the NFT. The contract is connected with the NFT, and the only thing the contract does is what the owner says. So the contract is very simple. Who's the owner? The owner of the contract is the custody. It's the contract that owns all the wallets. You can set it up and give the rights to different wallets to create the tokens, to modify settings, to issue commands. So it's a different story. I will talk about it later. So custody is being called by the operator. They calls the wallet calls their collection, and this all happens as part of the transaction. The operator pays the fee, and the operator is sharded. As often we see that network commission is different. So if we have one operator stuck, and we have some other operator closing that transaction, but this takes time, of course. So when we are trying to catch what has been sent, then usually the other operator would send new transaction. Actually, the operator is not enough, because the operator is at the server is available to many people, so you wouldn't want people, to be brought to the forest and explain that those tokens belong to someone else. So that's why we use the VKPay team that we have. This team stores the money, and they have a very well protected cluster with the PCI DSS protection, where we store the key. So for each transaction, we talk to them. They give us another signature that we send to the contract. So that is additionally checked. So that's how we ensure security. So, and each and every signature is unique. You cannot reuse it because it has some parameters that save the state. So even if the database is stolen, it will not work. So how does it look for the user? The user only sees the OTP form. With each and every wallet, we just tell the VKPay which user owns which wallet, and then if the user is sent to the VKPay and enters the OTP, then they send us the proof. But proof is not enough to steal the transaction, because we send information about users' card and some fiat metadata. And this set of data is checked by VKPay, and then we get the final signature. So we have the contract that is being managed, and we can change the owner Even if 2 keys are stolen, we have a robot monitoring the transactions. And if the robot sees that something goes wrong, something is not okay with our database, and we have multi-sig. So there's not one key is not enough to steal all the money. But safety and security costs money. All that infrastructure with the signatures costs us significantly more than just sending the token. And we take our money from the users. And of course, for the mass adoption, we would need the transactions to be the cheapest. Our main network is Polygon, Ethereum subchain that is cheaper and faster, and it's often used for NFTs, like Donald Trump would drop his collection on Polygon. Porsche does the same. And we also use Polygon. But of course, yeah, this costs you money. The user pays with rubles. We pay for the gas. We, of course, track the gas transactions. We try to pause them if we see that Bitcoin is going up or down, and if the users go to sell or buy something. But of course, we cannot hold this for many years. So we cannot hold those contracts. How does the contract look? The contract is deployed for a special address. And in case we publicize the contract to the network, we see a cache. We see a hash with the creator and the number. The numbers are sequenced, so you cannot enter this sequence. Same as the kings are, numbered. You cannot skip Ludovic 11s. Okay, second meme coin. We need Ludovic 11s, then Ludovic 12s, 13s, and only after that we will have Ludovic the 14th. That's inconvenient, because usually the users would just create wallets and not send stuff. So we don't want to spend money on each and every client before the real transaction happens. Luckily, as part of Constantinople's fork, there's a new standard, Create 2, for the contracts, and the contract address is calculated as the hash of the creator and the contract code. But the contract can only be created by another contract that needs to be created through publics. But this is just any 32 bytes, and you create IDs, you deploy them with the complex ID, and this address can only have some specific contract. So the address depends on the code. You cannot deploy the collection to the wallet address or the other way around. This enables us to not deploy anything. So we use only the collection that we ourselves create. And thus, our address can call another collection and prove that this address is being owned by the custody. So this address number 25 of the wallet that is owned by the custody, and you don't need to create a wallet. The collection would just prove the address and just transfer the token. This allows us to save a lot of money. But of course, we need to deploy the collection. And of course, we need to create wallets if we want to work with external collections. And deploying the collection is not a cheap thing. But of course, we can work to throw away the things we don't need and leave the things just the things we need, because the wallets have the same code. We can take it, put it into some library, and talk to that library via a delegate call, special mechanism in Ethereum calling the code of the other contracts, keeping the context. So you run the code, but you work in the name of the specific address, and you can keep the states of the address.
Самый маленький контракт называется minimal proxy contract.
The smallest contract is called minimal proxy contract. It's described as a special standard, very well audited, and it wasn't broken for quite a while already. So it just gets the call and sends it to a hard-coded address. This is quite cheap, but of course it creates some transaction costs for you. So delegate call is not free. It adds 3,300 gas to each and every call. And of course, when you create some contracts using minimal proxy, you need to take it into account. It's cheap to deploy the contract, but in the long term, if you have an active wallet, an active collection that a lot of people work with, then this cost of 3,300 gas would cost you something. You would, you would be able to use all the value that you get for it. Luckily, there's a number of steps you can take. You can upload the contract code for like 42K gas, and the second part is just the calls. And the calls to the contract cost you much less. So if you call one contract multiple times as part of one transaction, then the call costs you much less. This mechanism is called batching. So you have the block, which is a train. You have cars in a train being transactions, and you just pay the whole 21K for gas. You pay the whole car, and then you save a lot of money. But also, as I said, the contract code upload is cached. All the wallets as part of our network are the same. So if we call 50 different collections, upload the same library, and we spend less money. So all the transactions on the EVM networks are cached in some way. So if you read something or written something as part of the contract from storage, then you pay once some significant amount of money, and then you only pay a small amount for accessing the cache. Same with the write operations. So we would want, of course, the write operations to be optimized. And because we have 32 bytes as a minimal size of storage in Ethereum, you cannot write 1 byte. But you can split between number of clients, those 32 bytes. Like for each and every signature, we use nonce, 256-bit, and actually we map that nonce and the boolean of whether it was used or not. And those 256-bit are split in number of parts. So those 256 bits are the block address and the bit position. And that's why we can use each block multiple times, and each and every record is cheaper than the new one, because the new memory is not allocated. That's how we save gas. We actually stole this solution from Uniswap. It's called unordered nonce, and feel free to use it.
нонсов для своих мультисигов.
They use it for the multi-sigs they
Я уже
have.
говорил, перезапись блока дешевле записи нового.
Overwriting the block is cheaper than recording a new block, but the ideal thing is if you don't write there at all. The way Ethereum is structured is that every variable has its default value. By default, it's 0. So if you have collection settings, like whether it can be minted or not, can be revealed or not,
Просто вы делаете настройки по умолчанию, которые
ideally you do the settings that use the 0 most of the times, and then you don't need to write anything. But if you do need to write a lot of data, then you can create Merkle root or a Merkle tree. As we are talking about blockchain, probably you know what it is. That's how we store our governance settings, because we have the list of addresses and what they can do. And from that list, we create a Merkle root, and we just send the proofs to the contract.
И дополнительно это скрывает от внешнего наблюдателя, кто что может делать.
To obfuscate from the external viewer the capabilities of who can do what. So the user would not know our operators, our rules, unless they are applied.
Выводы нашего UVA.
So
если можешь не писать,
here are the decisions. If you can avoid writing, don't write. If you write the least amount. And if you can split, do split. A couple of words about Web3. As I said, we want our users to not only be able to put their NFTs as avatars in ВКонтакте, but also to come to other sites and put their avatar there. Usually, this is done by the signature. So you go to the site, sign the message. I would like to enter this site today, but we have contracts, and we cannot sign something with a contract because it doesn't have a private key. So we have sign-in with Ethereum, a standard describing what can be signed and how it can be signed. So it's not just a random phrase. Structure shown by the wallet with all the nonce and defined structure. We also have 1271 contract describing how we check the signature if it's been signed by the contract. So this contract would have a method receiving the cash and returning whether this signature is valid. It's not true and false. It's a special magic number, but it doesn't matter. The important thing is that it's done off the chain, and you just call the method, not paying any gas. But the problem is that the contract is not deployed. Our wallets are not represented. And how can we check the signature of the existing contract? So now we have ERC 6492 that describes how we can check the contract that is not signed. So the signature would have a subcontract. The deployment of that contract would be emulated, and then the signature would be checked. So by doing this, we can integrate with the worldwide blockchain. So Our contracts are very safe. We passed the audit. It's very cheap. We have optimized everything for mass operations, for multiple use, and they are very scalable. We can expand and add new functionality. So we don't have those new standards, but we know how to implement them. And we hope, of course, that you will be able to work with us, with our contracts, and if you have any ideas or suggestions, send me a message. Here's the QR code with my page. Some of my research is there, and some detailed information on the gas and the standards. Thank you.
Как вы проводите аудит безопасности? Мы проводим аудит безопасности.
How do you run the security audit? We use the auditors. We give them the contract. The contract is internal repository. They download it and they give us the report. And we use the report to fix our contracts. There was a number of iterations. Not the first iteration was not successful. There was no significant vulnerabilities, but we've reduced the perimeter definitely. There was a set of functionality that was created for the future, but because the contracts are upgradable, we removed the excessive things and optimized the low-level things with working with gas-like iterations and stuff.
Были случаи кражи NFT в
We
ВК.
had cases where NFTs were stolen in VK.
Не было. Опять же, у нас на этот случай есть еще
We
один,
didn't have any, but we have
какая-то
a
массовая
special layer
вывод токенов.
when there's an outflow of tokens, the contract custody would be stopped. And we have a procedure
Как сделано?
to analyze incidents.
Он двууровневый.
Token transfer is layered. So on the contract layer, we have
С одного нашего внутреннего адреса на другой внутренний адрес. То
the
есть
fact that the token can be sent from one internal wallet to another internal wallet. And only using your own wallet, you can send it outside.
переводы, они идут через
So
и
sending outside and is done through some scoring, and the user would have time to say, it wasn't me
у нас там есть
doing this, so this moment
переводить
everything stops. We have a procedure for sending this to separate addresses, researching, and
у технологии
all the
NFT
typical actions.
полезных появлений, помимо искусства.
NFT has a lot of useful applications besides the art.
Я уже показывал в слайде, у нас
Why
есть
art?
других применений, просто
Well, as I said on the slide, we have a lot of other approaches, but the art is the most
художников и
bright and visible, and we have a lot of
которые могут монетизировать свое творчество, и это дает им дополнительный
artists who can monetize,
такой самый
and this gives them the stimulus.
части
We
технологии.
started with the most
Вы используете приватные
attractive part of the
и
technology.
кастодиальные кошельки. Значит, предполагается
Use
зависимость
blockchain net and custodial
компании или третьему лицу.
wallets, right? So it depends on the trust to third party. Why don't you
Мы ведем разработку
develop a public system?
Полигон — это публичная сеть, она
We
децентрализована.
develop for the public network. Polygon is a public network.
На Ethereum.
It's security based on Ethereum.
Собственные ноды, как бы,
We use
это не какая-то закрытая сеть.
It's not some closed network.
Использовать на внешних кошельках.
You
Мы
can use those tokens on the external
можем
wallets
использовать внешние кошельки для работы с NFT, ВК NFT в некоторых случаях.
to work with NFTs.
Специальный кошелек
in
сделан для
NFTs.
того, чтобы пользователь
The custodial wallet is created so that the user could use
чтобы
it
он не терял ключи.
easily and to avoid losing the
Потому
keys.
что у большинства из нас есть такая история, что где-то там
So
лежит
many of us would have a story of having, hidden a couple of Ethereums which are lost. But if we brand this all under VK, and they will come to our support service, and we will not be able to help. But in this case, we are able to. And are now using this semi-custodial wallet with a third signature from a key that's stored with the user. But we need to understand what would happen when the user finally loses the key.
Так, тут очень много вопросов. Какой язык программирования используется в VK NFT?
A lot of questions. Which programming language do you use for VK NFTs? Well, for the contracts, we use Solidity and Dual. The backend is mostly written on Go.
Есть ли возможность провести прозрачный аудит смарт-контрактов?
You transparently audit smart contracts. In the coming time, we're planning to upload the audit results, the source code. Some contracts are in the network, some code is already published.
Какие есть механизмы блокировки токенов у пользователя?
What are the mechanisms for blocking the tokens for the users?
Если о том, как во ВКонтакте, то есть ВКонтакте
in VK,
может блокировать конкретные, то есть если
the user can block specific
публикуете, то на сайте
tokens. If you publicize a dick pic, for example, it will not be shown on the site. Unfortunately, your dick pics will be available only through APFS. But the metadata will be in APFS. So if the person wants to have a look, they will manage. What is the consensus? It's Polygon. I'm not sure I'm qualified to explain the Polygon's consensus mechanism. What is the monetization?
Совместный дроп с Йота, мы сделали совместный...
We did a drop with Yota and with Axe, and we'll do the drops, more and more of the drops, and of course the commissions.
Токены для ваших NFT для публичных сетей. Наши токены...
Do you have tokens for the public network? Our tokens are already in the public network. You don't need to rob them. They comply to all the standards. Just auto increment. How do you formulate the signature? Can you create a validator in a Polygon network? Yes. We use the Polygon network, and probably we will use other networks too. We don't plan to use our closed network with the validators. Can you have a look at the source codes of the contracts in VK? Yes, you can do it in the scanner. The collection holds... Does the collection hold images or links? We are compliant with the RC 721. So the collection has the links to APFS. It has JSON with metadata that points to the picture in APFS.
Нужны ли механизмы на газе именно в ВК?
Do we need mechanisms based on gas in VK?
Опять же, мы используем публичные сети, Polygon, мы используем стандартный EVM.
We use public networks, Polygon, DVM.
Со всеми на равных.
So that's why we play on the same...
Спасибо.
On the same ground as everyone else. Thank you. I think that's all.
Выбрать лучший вопрос. Я думаю, что...
You need to choose the best question.
Давайте, это будет вопрос, как вы проводите аудит безопасности, потому что...
How do you audit the security?
Спасибо.
Yeah, probably that's the best question because it enabled me to tell you something about it. Thank you.